CEO's shocking mockery of driver backfires when 9 surprising languages secure a $1.2 billion deal. Jessica Merrick stood at the head of the sleek glass boardroom, a figure of sharp intellect and raw ambition. Her reputation as a powerhouse CEO was solidified by the ruthless drive she carried within. Condescension was her weapon of choice. As she glanced around the room, a wave of confidence washed over her. It was the perfect afternoon to celebrate the multi-billion-dollar tech firm's impending partnership with an overseas conglomerate. But amid the excitement, her eyes landed on Oliver, her 28-year-old driver, parked outside the door. "If we can't negotiate successfully, we might as well let Oliver do the talking. He's fluent in 9 languages," she quipped, laughter erupting in the room like an unexpected charge of electricity. The joke cut deep, igniting shame in Oliver's gut. He felt reduced to nothing more than a mere driver, his talents dwarfed by Jessica's display of dominance. Words rushed through his mind. Language was his craft, not a punchline. Each laugh was a dagger, but he masked his discomfort, forcing a smile. As the laughter faded, tension coiled around his heart. Jessica transitioned to business, but Oliver felt loss creeping into his thoughts. His father had instilled a love for languages in him, the stories from different cultures ricocheting in his head. But here he stood, treated as invisible, while a multi-million-dollar deal hung in the balance. A feeling of insignificance, of being sidelined, gnawed relentlessly at him. But anger wrestled at his core. He wanted to speak up, to inform her that his skills could bridge the very divide that risked their negotiation. The chatter around the table turned frantic. Time ticked down. The ramifications of Jessica's arrogance scratched at his mind, diving deep into pools of his heritage. Did she even recognize the value of what he could offer? By dismissing him, she dismissed a bridge to their success. Perhaps she would never understand the nuances of those cultures she so boldly disregarded. Was it too late to demand respect? With every passing moment, dread filled the air, as everyone realized the company was losing leverage in the negotiations due to cultural missteps. Under pressure, Jessica asserted her confidence as though it were an armor. "We'll handle it," she declared, brushing aside any suggestion of outside help. Each word felt like another jab into Oliver's growing turmoil. Did she not see the caution in the representative's eyes? "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference."
Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As whispers of pending disaster buzzed throughout the room, Oliver's legs felt rooted, yet his heart raced with a fierce desire to regain his dignity. Could he really speak up against the powerful figure before him? He was stuck, his loyalty to a faulty system battling against the legacy of his father. In a breath-holding standoff, he realized that fear wasn't just a feeling, it was a decision. Just as he steeled himself to rise, silence engulfed the room. All eyes turned toward him, reflecting unspoken questions, untested allegiances. Jessica's eyes glimmered with a mix of irritation and apprehension, as if sensing the challenge lurking in Oliver's silence. In that heavy pause, the conflict twisted tighter, leaving only uncertainty in its wake. Would Oliver dare to combust the status quo, or would Jessica's arrogance extinguish the chance for change altogether? Each moment stretched onward, the air thick with potential transformation, the unyielding definition of the American dream teetering between them. The silence weighed heavily, each second stretching into an eternity. Oliver could feel every heartbeat thundering in his ears, battling with the emotions that surged through him, fear, anger, and an unfamiliar flicker of resolve. He took a deep breath, gathering the fragments of courage that felt out of reach. With every ounce of determination rising within him, thoughts of his father's legacy flooded his mind. What would he have done? Oliver mused silently, envisioning the proud visionary who had taught him the power of language. And then, as if propelled by a force beyond himself, Oliver lifted his chin, locking eyes with Jessica. "Actually, I believe I can help. I understand the nuances of the cultures we're negotiating with," he spoke, his voice steady despite the internal storm. The impact of his words cut through the room like a knife. Shocked gasps mingled with murmurs of disbelief, eyes darting between Oliver and Jessica, whose expression shifted from irritation to incredulity. Jessica's response was measured, tinged with annoyance. "Really? And you think that dismissing industry experts for a driver will lead us to victory? This isn't a high school debate." Her scorn danced sharply in the air, but there was an undercurrent of uncertainty in her voice, as if his challenge had rattled her unshakable facade. Oliver felt empowered by her dismissal. Being a driver doesn't negate my knowledge. If anything, it provides me a unique perspective on the nuances of these cultures. With each word, the tremors of self-doubt began to quench against this newfound conviction. His heart pounded not only out of fear, but also with the exhilaration of being seen at last. I've spent years immersing myself in these languages. It's not just about words, but cultural understanding.
If we want to build a lasting partnership, we need more than just what's on the surface. Before Jessica could unleash another retort, he pressed on. Imagine the difference we could achieve if we acknowledged the values and expectations that guide our partners. This deal could slip away because we overlook the very fabric of their culture. The room fell into a contemplative hush. Faces shifted from disbelief to curiosity. Even Jessica, usually so impervious, hesitated. Could this potential bridge be the missing link to success? The question hung palpably in the air, threading through the tension that had engulfed them moments before. In that moment, Oliver's mind raced with possibilities. It was a turning point. He'd fought against being seen merely as a driver, and now, perhaps, he could redefine his role entirely. His thoughts danced with strategic ideas and insights he could offer. Was it truly possible that this debacle could propel him into a position of respect? He could almost hear the echo of gratitude from a father who would have celebrated this moment, recognizing the courage to step forward. As he ran his fingers through his hair, bracing himself for the path ahead, he felt an urgency to cut through the tension, to take action before the opportunity slipped further away. Jessica's hesitation began to morph into contemplation as she weighed the implications of Oliver's proposition. Did her ambition blind her to the very potential surrounding her? The thought lingered, creating fissures in her carefully constructed armor. What if Oliver did have something to offer? As the air crackled with anticipation, Jessica finally spoke, her tone cautious. "All right, let's hear it. Show us what you can bring to the table. But if it backfires..." A challenge hung within her words, some flicker of recognition beginning to form, a subtle shift in power dynamics. Oliver inhaled sharply, a mixture of exhilaration and dread. His chance had arrived, but at what cost? Would he conquer the undercurrents that had kept him silent for so long, or would the weight of the skepticism drown his fragile victory? In that moment, he resolved to step beyond what had defined him, a chance to create his own narrative rather than succumb to Jessica's mockery. As he prepared to share his insights, a thought flashed through his mind. This was just the beginning of his confrontation with the status quo. The moment had come to unravel who he truly was. Would he rise to the occasion, or remain the overlooked driver in a world dominated by ambition and power? Oliver felt the weight of the room's collective gaze as he prepared to share the knowledge that had simmered within him, locked away for far too long. Anxiety clenched at his stomach, but he pushed it aside. This was his moment to shine, to demonstrate the depth of his understanding, and to bring something invaluable to the table. He began with a confident nod, his voice careful yet resonant.
Our goal is to create a partnership that respectably navigates cultural differences. It's essential to understand societal norms, values, and expectations before entering negotiations. I propose we start by analyzing the key cultural dimensions of our partners. He reached for the materials he had gathered, laying them out for the team to see. Each slide he presented illustrated the complexities of the societies they were engaging with. He spoke of collectivism versus individualism, the high context versus low context communication styles, and power distance. With each point, Oliver sensed the energy shift in the room, as skepticism began to morph into intrigue. Jessica's initial scorn faded slightly. She leaned forward, giving him the floor, a small but significant victory. As Oliver articulated his thoughts, sensations surged within him, mingling exhilaration with dawning realization. He was no longer just a driver. He was the translator of culture, the bridge between divergent worlds. The thrill of imparting knowledge invigorated him. Understanding these factors will not only help us avoid potential miscommunications, but will also enable us to build rapport, demonstrating respect for their traditions. Let's not approach this as a transaction, but as a meaningful dialogue. He glanced at Jessica, recognizing the cautious appreciation in her expression. A part of him battled the ingrained nervousness that had kept him quiet in the past. Would this moment cement his position, transforming him into a valued member of the team, or would doubt creep back in, tainting his efforts? Incorporating these insights into our tactics could elevate our negotiations drastically, he continued. For instance, with our partners from Japan, understanding the importance of group consensus over individual assertiveness will lead us to more impactful conversations. If we dismiss their styles, we risk losing out on their trust, and with it, the opportunity. Confidence radiated from him, each word solidifying his newfound identity. The atmosphere buzzed. Oliver could see his colleagues exchanging glances, slowly recalibrating their initial assumptions about him. He felt a sense of belonging wash over him, piercing through years of invisibility. When he finished, a moment of silence enveloped the room. Jessica broke it first. "All right, I can see your points, Oliver. What's next?" Her challenge ignited a spark within him. This was a pivotal moment. He had to seize the momentum. "Next, I suggest we simulate a negotiation role-play. I could take on the roles of our international partners. It would allow us to practice addressing cultural nuances firsthand, preparing us better for the real meetings." The apprehension dissipated further as discussions began to unfold among the team about logistics and potential scenarios, and Oliver couldn't help but smile. He was shaping the conversation, impacting the structural approach to the negotiations.
But even as excitement bubbled inside him, the familiar shadow of self-doubt lingered. What if this newfound respect was fleeting? What would happen if he faltered when put to the real test? The discussions carried on, strategizing various pathways forward. Yet Oliver's mind began weaving a narrative of what was next. He needed to embrace this opportunity fully, but that meant confronting the remnants of his past self, ensuring he remained steadfast and adaptable among the whirlwind of corporate ambition around him. The tension in the room wasn't just about their project, it was also about Oliver's struggle for self-acceptance, an internal battle that echoed a broader truth. As the meeting wrapped up with a sense of purpose, Oliver caught Jessica's eye, realizing the shift was larger than just his input. He had ignited a flicker of respect within her, albeit begrudgingly. But lurking beneath that glimmer was a formidable question. What would happen when the board meeting arrived and the stakes were higher than ever? Would he stand firm, or would the past come crashing down at the most critical moment? The answer was poised just out of reach, as the path unfurled in front of him, leading into the unknown. In the days following the meeting, Oliver felt an unusual mixture of exhilaration and trepidation. The role-play simulations evolved swiftly, guiding the team through cultural mazes he'd initially outlined. Each meeting felt like a revelation, peeling away layers of apprehension, allowing him to emerge within his newly established role. Yet beneath the polished exterior of collaboration, his internal struggle simmered. As he studied the diverse communication styles, Oliver realized how deeply ingrained his instincts were. He often slipped into old habits of conforming to authority figures like Jessica, their previous dynamics whispering doubts into his ears. "You're just a driver, stay in your lane." Yet after delivering his insights with clarity, he tasted a different kind of freedom. It was invigorating to influence outcomes, to actively shape the dialogues, an itch he hadn't known needed scratching. One afternoon, sitting across from a vibrant map pinned on the wall, Oliver noticed a shift in Jessica. They were analyzing potential international partnerships, and for the first time, she asked for his input without hesitation. "What do you think, Oliver?" The question caught him off guard. He blinked, forcing himself to shake off moments of doubt. "I believe we should prioritize the Latin American market next," he replied, his voice growing steadier with each syllable. "Understanding the emphasis on personal connections will be essential as we navigate their negotiations. Building trust is key." Jessica nodded, and a small smile tugged at the corners of her lips. And just like that, he punctured a hole in the residual apprehension that still lingered. Encouraged, he ventured further. Also, if we weave in elements of language at the start of our meetings, it can demonstrate our goodwill. Simple greetings or pleasantries can set a welcoming tone. "Right," she said decisively, her tone curious. "Let's draft a plan." With each passing interaction, Oliver felt his confidence building. He began to embrace his voice more, drawing from the cultural tools he had uncovered. But triumph was paired with unsettling thoughts about the looming board meeting. What if he fumbled in front of the executives? He had seen how smoothly negotiations could turn downward in a matter of seconds, and he doubted whether he'd be able to maintain intensity if that pressure squeezed down on him. As the date approached, he immersed himself deeper into preparation, familiarizing himself with negotiation tactics, practicing scenarios, and rehearsing responses to likely questions. He even reached out to a few mentors via email, drawing on their experiences as they navigated similar paths. His efforts bloomed into a new resolve. This isn't just a chance for you to shine, Oliver. This is your time to redefine how others see you.
One evening, while reviewing his notes at home, the weight of the board meeting suddenly felt staggering. Could he bind his past experiences with the new persona he was forging? Memories of feelings of inadequacy surged, echoing over the recent validations he had received. The flutter of self-doubt returned, clawing at the corners of his mind. Fatigued, he leaned back, distancing himself from his paper and pen. How could anyone expect him to stand there among the executives? Would they still view him as the driver, or could he become more? Was he capable of showing them the depth of his understanding? The silence of the room pressed back, hearing only his own hovering thoughts, a landscape riddled with both promise and fear. And just then, the message tone from his phone broke the tension, revealing a new email notification. It was from Jessica, setting the stage for a final rehearsal before the board meeting. The subject line read, "Important, let's finalize tomorrow." His heart raced. Could he truly address the board with the same confidence he had cultivated within the team? As the challenges loomed ahead, Oliver recognized that this could either solidify or shatter his new identity. The stakes were higher than ever, and the moment of confrontation was approaching fast. He had to be ready. Was he prepared to transform the narrative forever, turning a moment of bleak anxiety into one of powerful assertion? Was the language of confidence etched within him, or still just words waiting to escape? The day of the final rehearsal arrived, and Oliver felt a crescendo of adrenaline coursing through him. He stepped into the conference room, mind buzzing like a live wire.
The room was alive, whiteboards covered in sketches, digital screens looping data on potential markets, and his colleagues positioning themselves with focused determination. Jessica stood at the front, framing their plans with an assured air. "Everyone, let's go over our strategies. How will we use our cultural insights to gain the edge in negotiations?" As she directed the discussion, Oliver's mind spun with every detail he had researched. "Let's not forget," he injected, his voice steady as it broke through the chatter. "We can't overlook the meaningful context behind greetings in different cultures. Each interaction could fundamentally set the tone." Jessica's eyes sparked with approval, and a subtle sense of validation washed over him. It was a small win, but it felt monumental. This was a real-time application of everything he'd unearthed amidst his anxiety. Yet, even while he felt a rush of empowerment, the undercurrent of fear remained. What if this burst of confidence faltered in front of the executives? He envisioned faces in the boardroom, a gallery presenting not potential partners but critics instead. The prospect of encountering their scrutiny sent cold tendrils of doubt through him, a chilling reminder of old narratives that still whispered, "You're not enough," as if fated to be a mere part of their background, an unnoticed figure among giants. They ran through different scenarios, and with every pitch simulation, Oliver felt his resolve crystallized. A voice inside prodded him to push beyond what was comfortable. After several rounds, it was time for Oliver to present his take on the recommendations. He stood, adjusting his tie, and steeled himself. "Thank you for your insights," he began, internally congratulating himself for maintaining eye contact. "As we target the Latin American market, we have an opportunity to connect in ways that extend beyond business. Using local dialects, even in small introductions, can cultivate trust, emphasizing that we see them as partners rather than transactions." Jess nodded, while a few curious glances shot toward him. He continued, "Also, cultural nuances around personal sharing can inform our approach. Understanding what to ask and what not to ask can make or break our engagement." This time, he sensed a ripple of interest in the room rather than dismissal, rejuvenating his spirit further. However, the atmosphere thickened. Jessica, rolling with momentum, turned to him. "Oliver, do you think you can restate that in terms they'd best relate to at the board meeting?" Hesitation prickled at his edge. What if the executives didn't care? What if they were set in their ways? His instincts were torn, caught between the fight for recognition and the risk of rejection. But then he recentered, determined not to retreat into the shadows of old habits. "Absolutely," he started, swallowing boldness.
By presenting these cultural strategies as not just a broader approach, but as answers to their specific challenges, we can ignite their interest. It's about showing them we understand more than just numbers. We understand people. Jessica smiled again, this time broader, somehow deeply encouraging. "Yes, that's what we need." In that moment, Oliver's resolve solidified further. He sensed change within him, not just the confidence of the team, but a budding belief that he too could influence perspectives, could compel decision-makers to see value in each voice, including his own. But just as the excitement began to settle, unease pricked his thoughts once more. The pitch was the stage, yet he had a nagging shadow. Could he truly command it when the actual board meeting arrived? His mind flickered with scenarios, the boardroom, the executives, and all that was at stake. Everything hinged on his ability to merge insight with boldness. Would he rise, or would he falter when it counted? As rehearsals came to a close, a gnawing urgency tugged at his chest. He knew that this pivotal moment was more than just a meeting. It was a test of everything he claimed to have learned. And deep within him, he questioned, would he seize the opportunity to cement his place, or would he stand among them only as an echo of the past, still fighting for recognition? The shadows loomed ahead as Oliver steeled himself for the board meeting. Could he truly transform his anxiety into purpose, or would doubt reclaim its hold just when it mattered most? The day of the board meeting arrived, casting a serious beam of light across Oliver's intentions, a day he had both dreaded and anticipated. He stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his cufflinks with a forced confidence, trying to quiet the inner turmoil that threatened to surface. Each tick of the clock echoed like a countdown, amplifying his pulse and anchoring his thoughts on potential failure. He had spent countless nights preparing, rehearsing his points in front of an imagined audience. Yet standing here, the weight of expectation and self-doubt pushed hard against his chest. This was not merely a presentation. It was his opportunity to redefine himself, to showcase not just his intelligence, but his ability to stand firm and articulate his thoughts. The boardroom loomed large, its glass walls symbolizing the transparency he feared yet craved. With each step toward the door, he felt slivers of anxiety weaving through his resolve. Oliver paused briefly, taking a breath to center himself. This was not about proving himself to others. It was about validating his own efforts and insights. As he entered the room, he was met with the heavy presence of executives, stern faces, scribbling pens, and steady gazes. The bar was set high, and the air hummed with anticipatory tension. Jessica stood beside him, exuding the confidence he wished he felt.
She smiled lightly, as if imparting silent reassurance, grounding him amidst the looming uncertainty. "Good morning, everyone," Oliver began. His voice trembled momentarily, a blip that sent a shock of embarrassment rippling through him, but he pushed through, centering on the view of the audience. His research was front and center, not just statistics on paper, but stories of cultures he had immersed himself in. As he transitioned into the core of his presentation, Oliver focused on his voice's rhythm, choosing his words carefully. In our outreach to the Latin American market, it's imperative we adopt their linguistic nuances. Fostering relationships begins at the most fundamental levels, through personal connection. Using local dialects can turn cold exchanges into warm welcomes. Murmurs arose from the executives, their attention shifting from disinterest to intrigue, and a flicker of empowerment surged through him. They weren't subjecting him to scrutiny, they were engaged. He continued, weaving in anecdotes that illustrated the human side of business interactions, each story reinforcing the ideas he pitched. Yet, as he reached a pivotal moment in his presentation, he caught a flash of skepticism from one of the board members, a seasoned executive who leaned back, arms crossed, a smirk forming at the corner of his mouth. "Are you suggesting we sugarcoat the deal with local dialects? Isn't this just a touch of cultural nicety that we can't afford when discussing multi-million-dollar contracts?" The air grew thick, and Oliver's heart raced, fury sharpening his focus. Here was his moment, the test he had prepared for. He met the executive's gaze, steadying himself against the creeping doubt that threatened to pull him under. "Not at all," he replied, articulating slowly, each word weighed with intention. "What I'm advocating for is the acknowledgement of individual identities rather than a one-size-fits-all approach. This isn't about diluting our objectives, but about enriching our engagements and ultimately transforming transactions into partnerships." He felt a surge of relief as the room shifted. He had turned the focus back to the values of his proposals. While he didn't win over the skeptic immediately, he had asserted his stance firmly. This time, he was not a shadow behind ideas. He had become the catalyst for discussion, igniting curiosity rather than defensiveness. The presentation continued, and Oliver felt something shift within him, a realization that perhaps this was not just a fight for recognition, it was a fight for relevance. Each question that followed opened opportunities instead of threats. As he walked back to the team, a sense of accomplishment warmed him. But as applause subducted, a looming sense of uncertainty echoed in the recesses of his mind. Had he truly shifted perceptions?
Had he commanded respect, or was it merely a fleeting moment? More importantly, would the final decision sway in their favor?
The thrill of his performance danced with the weight of anticipation. As he exited, the pressure of outcomes lingered like fog. The looming dread returned, presenting an oppressive question. Would the executives rally behind his vision, or would he return to the periphery, scrambling to reclaim a presence he had momentarily grasped? The time had come to face not just the executives, but also the lingering fear of his own potential. Would this board meeting mark a breakthrough, or would he slip back into the shadowy embrace of self-doubt? Oliver left the boardroom, the applause still echoing faintly in his ears, a sound that felt both triumphant and hollow. As he walked through the glass corridors of the corporate office, he grappled with the undercurrent of uncertainty that threatened to drown out his earlier adrenaline. The encounter with the skeptical executive circled continuously in his mind, punctuated by the weight of the words he had exchanged. He could feel the gravity of each step he took, every stride a mixture of confidence and hesitance as he navigated the throngs of employees. Their heads down, glued to their devices, appeared oblivious to the storm brewing inside him. But Oliver's thoughts were not silenced. The concept of fighting for relevance gnawed at him. Did he truly belong here now, or was he still on the periphery? This moment demanded more than just acknowledgement. It needed a shift in perception that could carry weight long after the meeting tables cleared. Settling into a small conference room, alone for the moment, he closed his eyes and relived the meeting's flow. His confidence had surged with each story, yet every flicker of skepticism had absorbed energy, as if they armor-plated his fear. Instead of letting it build walls, he allowed it to become fuel. The inner whir of thoughts began to morph. This wasn't simply a hurdle, but rather an invitation to deepen his understanding of himself and wield that self-awareness as an asset going forward. Taking a notepad from the table, he began to jot down reflections that broke free from lingering doubts. What skills had he unearthed during this endeavor? Communication was one, of course, but beyond that, a deeper connection with the audience, a vulnerability interwoven into the fabric of his delivery, a willingness to challenge the status quo with informed perspectives. The truth of it pressed upon him. He was evolving more than he realized. Yet even as he drafted insights, a voice crept into his thoughts, gnawing at the edges of his resolve. Should he disregard the criticisms or sharpen his focus? Could he turn this moment of dissent into a greater strength? The answer hovered just out of reach, as more questions joined the chorus. Had the board truly engaged with his ideas, or were they merely polite? The wrinkle in his confidence now a full, threatening to unfurl. Determination spiraled within him, twisting with anxiety. Not merely content to ride the wave of uncertainty, he sat upright and made a decision. He would seek feedback deliberately, engaging more deeply with his colleagues. They would serve as a sounding board as he experimented with narrative techniques and storytelling to weave more potent connections. He envisioned integrating lessons from cultural nuances he had discovered throughout his research, not just for proposals, but as a regular practice in team interaction. But the idea of investigating deeper truths about his work confronted another layer of Oliver's psyche. The risk of vulnerability lay in exposing flaws, especially against seasoned colleagues whose opinions loomed larger than his own. Would they offer constructive insights, or would he face a harsh critique that could further entrench his self-doubt? The stakes were paradoxically high yet compelling, a breeding ground for growth or demise. Heaving a breath, Oliver stood, the internal storm receding slightly to reveal a more solid terrain beneath his feet. This will be his next step, a call to action, not just for himself, but for inviting collaboration. A few hours later, after stewing through feedback discussions and team dialogues, word finally circulated about the board's response to his presentation. The door creaked open, and Jessica stepped in, her expression unmistakably charged. "Oliver, there's something you need to see." "What is it?" he asked, heart racing once again at the swirling possibilities. She paused, a knowing smile creeping across her lips, but the urgency beneath it revealed something deeper. "It's about the decision," she explained, stepping closer, as if she held the key to something monumental. The moment filled with tension, a doorway into uncertainty flung wide open, yielding not just a response, but a pivotal revelation that could redefine his standing in the company, and perhaps his self-worth as well. Would the board support his vision,
Or was this only the beginning of a much different journey than he had anticipated? Jessica's eyes sparkled with an energy that made Oliver's pulse quicken. "The board has decided to invest in your project." The words hung in the air, a heady perfume mingling triumph and disbelief that crashed over him like a wave. It was the validation he had yearned for, the recognition of his labor and vision. Yet a shadow of doubt quickly ascended, mingling with the exhilaration. "Really? They approved it?" he asked, testing the words as if to confirm their solidity and reality. Her nod was resolute, but a flicker of caution crossed her features. "But they have some conditions. They want you to refine the pitch further and address some of the concerns raised, especially from Marcus." Marcus, the skeptical executive whose biting critique had echoed in his thoughts since the presentation. Oliver's stomach twisted at the mere thought. "What did he say?"
He appreciated the innovative angle, but he remained skeptical about the cultural aspects you proposed. He's pushing for more data, logistics, demographics, something that will appeal to the numbers first, inspiration second. Jessica sighed. He implied that if those tweaks are made, he could rally support from others. An ominous weight settled in Oliver's chest. He had envisioned himself as a visionary, daring to redefine the conversation around the project. Yet here was Marcus, challenging him to revert to the safety of cold statistics in a world he believed craved authenticity and connection. "How do I even begin to approach this?" he muttered, glancing down at the notepad that had transformed from a canvas of self-discovery to an intimidating list of objections. "You can start by getting ahead of the data," she advocated, determination weaving into her tone. "Dig into the research you've conducted and pull specific examples that affirm your narrative. You know your work, Oliver. Find a way to marry it with those numbers." He took a steadying breath, aware that every word spiraled deeper into his conscience. The challenge crystallized around him. Should he capitulate and play it safe, refusing to compromise his creative vision for rigid expectations? Or should he adapt his approach to accommodate the feedback? The clash between his authenticity and the demands of the corporate world loomed ahead. Later that evening, he sank into a chair at his small desk, scattered with papers, sketches, and data reports. The flickering screen illuminated a path strewn with charts and figures, demographic analysis that screamed for attention, trends that beckoned him closer. It felt alien to him, a departure from the storytelling that had driven his passion. Was this the direction he truly wanted to chase? Reflecting on past successes, he recalled the narratives that had inspired teams, ignited debates, and united ambitions. A broader understanding dawned. The numbers were not the enemy. If integrated effectively, they could reinforce his vision rather than sideline it. Determination surged within him. No longer was he merely seeking survival among sobering critiques. He aimed to redefine what lay ahead. He would dive deep into the research, but infuse it with the narrative voice that had stirred the room. Synthesizing the creative with the analytical would be his power play, his manifesto, where authenticity met factual ground. What emerged as he began to formulate his strategy was not just technical precision, but a revised vision, one that kept the emotional core intact while offering robust support, pairing creativity with competence. As the night loomed on, each keystroke became a declaration, a fierce reclaiming of purpose. Yet uncertainty hung thick in the air. Would this synthesis resonate with Marcus? Could he truly bridge the gap between creative inspiration and staunch pragmatism?
With the clock ticking toward the deadline for revisions, a new challenge awaited him. Beyond just addressing critique lay the battle of confronting personal limitations. His evolution was not merely a professional journey. It was becoming an articulation of his identity. Oliver leaned back, eyes darting to the door that led back into the corporate labyrinth. The journey was far from over, and with the stakes harder than ever, he felt the thrill of what was to come. Could he prove not only the viability of his vision, but also forge a path that would ensure his standing among the corporate class? He closed his notepad, heart steadying, determination refocused. He had a story to tell, one that needed to resonate with all facets of persuasion. And now it was time to step through the doorway of challenge into the crucible of validation. The moment of truth was looming, and as he prepared to confront doubts and redefine expectations, a new urgency seeped into his resolve. The push to face Marcus and challenge his own boundaries had only just begun. Would he emerge transformed, or would hesitation lead him down a path of compromise? Oliver stirred awake to the morning light streaming through his window, the sun casting a golden hue on the paper strewn across his desk. His mind buzzed with the challenge ahead, a confrontation not just with Marcus, but with the versions of himself he'd conjured during sleepless nights. He could feel the weight of expectations pressing down, expectations that extended beyond mere numbers and sheets of data. They reached into the heart of who he was. Shuffling toward his desk, he glanced again at his notes, a rickety tower of half-formed ideas and scattered thoughts. It was a disheveled representation of his inner turmoil. The previous night's resolve lingered, but the impermanence of brilliance was beginning to settle in. Could this amalgamation of data and creativity articulate a vision that would resonate? He knew he had to do more than just meet Marcus's demands. He had to redefine the relationship between creativity and analytics. As he dug deeper into his research, each statistic unfurled new insights, revealing narratives hidden beneath cold figures. He no longer viewed data as dispassionate. It was a reservoir bursting with stories that awaited his interpretation. With each hour that passed, Oliver crafted a new pitch, weaving analytics seamlessly into a narrative that pulsed with emotion. Statistics on market trends became the backdrop for the human stories behind them, the artists who needed support, the communities ready to embrace change. He infused every slide with vivid anecdotes, striving to honor both the intellect of his audience and the core of his vision. Yet the closer he got to his presentation, the more he felt the looming shadow of Marcus's skepticism. Rehearsing in front of the mirror, Oliver found himself mirroring Marcus's critical gaze, searching for weakness in his own arguments.
Each question he posed to himself had a double-edged quality. It provoked reflection, but it also ignited self-doubt. Would a corporate board accept his heartfelt portrayal over cold logic? When the day came to present, his palms were clammy, but the fire of determination pushed him forward. The boardroom felt cavernous, echoing with subdued conversations as he set up his slides. He could sense Marcus's unwavering scrutiny as the executive leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, a fortress of skepticism challenging Oliver's resolve. "Good morning, everyone," Oliver began, the hesitance in his voice faltering as conviction rose in him. "Today, I'm excited to share not just facts and figures, but the stories that drive our project forward." As he delved into his narrative, the numbers spun into tales, the rise of communities engaging with his project, the resonance across diverse demographics, the yearning for connection that transcended mere analytics. He paced the room with passion, employing hand gestures that punctuated his conviction. For a moment, he forgot Marcus's doubts and reveled in the potential impact of his message. He could sense a shift as the executives leaned in, captivated not just by the lines on the screen, but by the passion he poured into each word. It was exhilarating, the realization that his blending of artistry and logic could hold a room captive. Yet doubt still cradled his insides. The finale was yet to come. And then came the question he dreaded. How do you justify your vision within the boundaries of concrete data? Marcus's tone was as sharp as a freshly honed blade. Oliver faltered for a brief moment, his thoughts racing. He had prepared for this. The data supports the emotional core of our project, reflecting not just numbers, but the potential lives we can affect. Yet, if we abandon the stories in favor of raw statistics, we lose what makes our work impactful, he countered, the weight of his resolve resonating in each syllable. As the meeting continued, tension electrified the air. The exchanges were charged. Marcus's skepticism ignited Oliver's fervor, driving him to confront each critique with poise. It was about far more than this project. It was Oliver's evolution, a synthesis of who he used to be and who he aspired to become. As the board members deliberated, Oliver's heart raced with anticipation. Would they embrace this new fusion of narrative and data, or would Marcus's shadow shroud his efforts once more? The answer hung in the air, like a spark waiting to ignite. And there, as the board's discussion mounted, Oliver prepared to face the most significant challenge yet, not only the decision of the board, but the ghosts of his doubts that threatened to hold him hostage. Could he bridge the divide and emerge victorious, or would he fall prey to the fear whispering in the back of his mind? The days following the pivotal board meeting marked a transformative epoch for Oliver. The executive team's decision had ignited a spark within him, propelling him beyond the limits of his former self. Not only had the board approved his project, but they had also adopted a new way of engaging with diverse cultures, embracing the idea of authenticity in business transactions. Over the subsequent weeks, Oliver immersed himself in the implementation of the initiative, executing the strategic vision he had laid out. He conducted workshops infused with insights sprung from both research and personal experiences, demonstrating the depth of communication necessary for imperative negotiations. Each session revealed layers of his understanding, And with every successful interaction, he witnessed a growing acknowledgement of his role in shaping the future of the company's international dealings. This newfound prominence cemented Oliver's identity beyond his previous title of driver. He had evolved into the Cultural Insight Director, a designation reflecting both his hard-earned expertise and the trust that had blossomed among his peers. Jessica, having observed Oliver assert himself, frequently sought him for insights during strategic discussions. Their initially tumultuous dynamic had metamorphosed into a collaborative partnership grounded in mutual respect. Jessica's admiration for Oliver's perspective spoke volumes. He no longer felt the insignificance of prior moments where he had felt overshadowed. While charting a course for successful negotiations, Oliver regularly updated his colleagues on emerging cultural trends, underscoring the vital interplay between analytics and human connectivity. The team's morale surged, and the palpable growth elicited from engaging clients with newfound respect transformed not only their approach but the revenue forecasts. It was an exhilarating period. He was no longer just participating in the corporate conversation, he was orchestrating it. Then came the moment of truth, a significant trade conference where Oliver was invited to present their strategy on a global stage. Anxiety flickered in his chest, a vestige of the old Oliver, yet it came paired with a solid confidence he hadn't believed possible before. Standing before an audience of industry leaders, he felt alive. He articulated their approach clearly, combining cultural insights with data-driven strategies, molding the narrative around partnerships rather than transactions. As he concluded his presentation to a wave of applause, Oliver felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. His insights didn't just resonate, they were embraced. It was a clear signal of his transformation from mere driver to a figure of influence, prepared to navigate the intricacies of cross-cultural engagements. In the weeks following, recognition poured in, not just from external sources but within the company. He received commendations from various stakeholders, including accolades from the company's CEO, praising his innovative vision and fresh perspective.
It was grounding and exhilarating to hear those words, affirming that the journey from anonymity to esteem had been both warranted and fulfilled. Oliver's path had not only been a climb in responsibility, but a powerful reclamation of self. Armed with the skills inherited from his father's lessons, a blend of passion for language and cultural appreciation, he learned that acknowledging one's worth was paramount. He had proved that backgrounds do not define capability. Instead, it is one's grit, willingness to communicate, and capacity to adapt that shape true leadership. As he reflected on where he had begun, Oliver realized he had achieved something far beyond recognition in a corporate environment. He had conquered the lingering self-doubt that once plagued him. He established himself, not by fitting molds set by others, but by crafting opportunities for meaningful connections, reminding himself that he belonged in this narrative and could drive it forward. Now poised at the helm of an evolving dialogue within the company, Oliver felt a satisfying strength in his identity as a cultural insight director. He was recognized not just as someone who navigated languages, but as a vital force steering the company toward a future enriched by diversity. And this revelation rang clear. He was not merely a driver anymore. He was an architect of understanding. Before the curtain fell on this chapter of his life, Oliver paused to consider the next steps. His journey wasn't confined to one singular role, nor would it end here. With the foundation he had built, he was ready to expand horizons beyond this success. He saw countless platforms where he could continue honing his expertise and advocating for cross-cultural respect and appreciation on larger stages. In that moment of reflection, he knew it was time to step back into the world, sharing this knowledge, advocating for more voices to be included, experiences to be recognized, and cultures to be celebrated. Because he understood he was standing at the precipice of something greater, a journey infinitely more rewarding than any paycheck could represent, a journey into becoming a resonant voice for others like him. As the chapter concluded, Oliver's heart swelled with pride. He was finally not just achieving, but thriving. Join this journey of transformative stories. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let others discover these paths of personal growth. Comment your reactions and theories about Oliver's incredible transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of overcoming personal challenges understand the importance of supporting these narratives.